in the regulations. And here's one of the Seat Leon Supercopas. It's the 66 car on the top of the mountain with the right guard, the right front fender, wheel arch if you like. That's been peeled away. That might have been just a little...
That's the biggest drama. It's what we can't see underneath the car. The front splitter as well will be an issue.
Just a shout out there for Writer Engineering, who put those Lambos together and have championed Lamborghini. There's no full works program, and Hans Ryder and Peter Cox have been developing that car for quite some time. Let's head down to the pit lane.
Yeah, you're getting in a Formula One car this year. How did that come about?
Oh, well, thanks to Sennheiser, who have been supporting me for many years now with motorsport. When we're going to Nürburgring to do the 24-hour again, which we do every year, and it's not a test, it's just simply a drive.
Full course caution here at the 2014.
How these cars are behaving, that's not behaving very well. That's one of the motorsport services Seats out of New Zealand. Number 66, I think, is parked well and truly in pit lane, stuttered behind the wheel.
It's got fire. There's a little bit of fire in the front end of that. Grant Denyer is down there.
Yeah, the situation was the 66 car came in, Michael Driver hopped in the car, the pit stop was taking a little bit long, and as you can see, the right front calipers caught fire. The crew was on it straight away. They've doused it in retardant, but unfortunately now they're going to have to get to work on this car and clean things up before they can send it back out onto the track.
That was Grant Boyden, wasn't it, down in the pit lane? Sorry, I got overexcited with the sight of flames there. And the helmet design that you saw just on the rear of that car, the rear window of that car, that
little tiny errors, the 1%ers that you can make in pit lane that will cause you to be penalised, and at the very least a drive-through penalty, which will cost you 35 seconds. And that, as we've seen in the past in this race, could be the difference between winning and losing.
What did we say at 6 o'clock this morning? Small mistakes have big repercussions here. And even that 10 seconds lost in the pits by the 88 car when John Bowe got into the car dropped them down from 2nd to 7th as they stand at the moment. Now, look, that might play out, and at the end of the race, if they're standing on the top step of the podium, it won't make a blind bit of difference. However, at the moment, that has had a big impact on how that car is and how competitive it is. They've caught a break here because they're going to get caught back up again,
that's
and
not
someone
supposed
who
to be parked there.
Caught a break.
That's a 35 Porsche, the second of the, seems to be very stable across the top of Mount Panorama Tour. Compared an onboard lap of that between that and the Audi last night, and the GTR just seems so composed and so well set up and planted across McPhillamy Park and onto Skyline.
We form up the crocodile behind the safety car, and then what they'll try and do is to get the leader up behind the safety car, and the leader, of course, is still the Audi of Oliver Gavin. The two Mercedes, I noticed, have swapped round because Bernd Schneider has now put himself... Safety car is out, though, so...
if that had been at racing speeds, I think he'd probably have been asked to the headmaster's office for a meeting without coffee. But I think under safety car, that isn't the worst thing that could happen, to be honest.
The other thing which has happened as a result of this safety car is that the other Erebus car, having got itself back onto the lead lap by the jiggery-pokery on the previous safety car, has managed to get itself not only on the lead lap but onto the tail of the leaders, and is going to be close, if not up with the McLaren that was battling for the lead itself.
Now we're seeing the wave by going on again because we had various of the leaders come in, including the 37 Van Gisbergen, who now, by the way, has dropped from...
but not in the way that it was given in those circumstances. The driver didn't work on the car effectively. He stopped the car. The outside assistance that was given, I believe, was in breach of the way that the repairs...
It's been a remarkable story in his very young career. We take a look back a little bit. This is Ben Barker in the Grove Racing Porsche. The number
11th position overall, by the way.
Teaming with Earl Bamber and Stephen Grove, the owner-driver. It's Grovey races Carrera Cup for, well, full-time in his racing at least. Behind them, Tavarshan Padiachi, who is a regular in Porsche.
With an issue for the right rear wheel of one of the leading Porsches, and it starts at Maguire's corner. It's the 12 car. Pat Long had just got out of that machine not too long ago, and he's got the whole of the lap pretty much to go around because he had missed the pit lane, and that is a disaster through the traffic, which includes the Daytona Coupe, and
the father and son watching on in pit lane will be interested to see how this plays out. Tony and Clark Quinn. Clark's driven. Tony yet to drive today. Missed out on a drive last year. Crashed early in his Aston Martin in the GT portion of the race and didn't get any laps. What about
taking to refill the 100-litre tank? And there is the 88 car heading around and up the mountain with Mika Salo, the cool Scandinavian, sitting in 4th position for the Finn.
It's good to hear from John Bowe before too, and how relaxed and chilled out he is. He's just spent some time up at the Liqui Moly corporate suite. He's got personal sponsorship from them as well. So,
and it's still Nico Bastian that leads from Andy Coccoli. Mika Salo up in the 3rd in the Ferrari. Oh, now that's really interesting. It's closed everything back up again. Bastian, who had a lead, has got Coccoli now just 4 seconds behind him. Panorama. He had a very nice Breitling watch on, I noticed there as well.
I reckon we've had...
We need to make a motor race, and we still have... It hasn't gone out yet. There's a quite high rate of attrition from some of the quicker cars as well. We've lost pretty much a third of the GT3 field, certainly a goodly proportion of the Class A field, and that has just left a little more space out there on the circuit, and people are using that well.
I'm making that calculation. If we don't get any more safety cars, if we do get more safety cars, I'm working on about 289 laps. Now the record is 292, isn't it? So we're entirely on schedule to get a record.
Hostelries. Have you ever seen an online presence and an online response to this race as we've had this year?
I have not, in all the years, and I've been fortunate enough to be involved with this race since it returned in 2007, and even the year before that in 06, when it was the Motor Festival event, which of course has returned since over Easter in a different format, but I've never seen anything like it. Also, big shout out is following Clark Quinn around. So now we're looking at a fight for 3rd and 4th between Jaeger and Davison. For the minor position on the podium at this stage. Bearing in mind there's just under 4 hours to go in the race.
You keep talking about Australian GT, and every time you do it, I mean to mention it and ask you some questions about it for our international listeners, and indeed perhaps even some of the domestic.
He's now the leading Mercedes. I mean, yes. I know you've just said so in as many words,
yes,
but
good
let's
point.
Just stress the fact that the leading Mercedes is...
That is the sign of a very, very good racing team, and that is the flag. We've not for what at the moment, but the drama at Radio Le Mans and on the Bathurst 12 Hours website, and delighted to say so many of you have done that. It's a rather uncivil time in Europe at the moment, coming up to 4 o'clock in the morning in the UK, 5 o'clock in the UK. I know many of you have stayed up right the way through, and in the States it's getting late at night, coming up to 11 o'clock in the evening on the East Coast, a little bit earlier on Saturday night on the left-hand coast. Thank you for staying with us. Your tweets, your messages on the Midweek Motorsport Listeners Collective at radiolemans.com have been outstanding, and the discussions that are going on there about tactics and just how big this race has become in the 7 scant years that it's been running are being noted. I'll tell you that. James O'Brien from Yeehaw Events has been
low, but you can't really control.
Down at the Maranello pit, how much money are they going to bet to keep an eye on that pit board and the car controller that time by? Perhaps I'm sure they would have had a team meeting between sessions.
There's the second place car coming through the fault bin. So we're working our 7th, the end of our 7th safety car period for almost 2 hours of full course caution. The BMW M5 has done sterling duty at the head of the field, but has been used intelligently and sparingly by race control. We have cleared up the errant, what was class leader, the number 17 Ginetta G50. That is on the rollback and it's heading in towards pit lane. And the lights will go off in a moment or two's time on the top of the BMW, and it is the leader, Mika Salo, with 19 cars, 1-9 between him and second place Shane van Gisbergen. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are of a nervous disposition, have pets or children, take a couple of steps back from the catch fencing, because we are about to light the SVG fuse and just see how long it takes for him to go off. Select military settings. get ready for a charge through the field as if his life depended on it. He will want to get on the back of that Il Bello Rosso Ferrari of Mika Salo as quickly as he possibly can and start putting pressure on the normally implacable Finn. However, he's hassled Bernd Schneider into problems and into issues today. Maybe he can do the same with Salo. So just on 2 hours and 46 minutes still to go. There's 19 cars between Salo and the second place car, and the green flag waves as we come off the back of the 7th safety car intervention, and we're racing again at Bathurst.
Lowndes clears out, and that Seat between him and everybody else really helped. So he had a good margin before they got to the line. Van Gisbergen's already got a couple of cars. Big moment in the race, this. So Salo can pull a margin. He can get out in front. And Van Gisbergen has to work his way through the field to get up to where he needs to be. And we're just tracking the process of the battle for third as well, because Greg Crick is behind the wheel of the Erebus Motorsport number 63 car. Just to confirm, they're timing that car manually because the incident early on when they hit the back of the Daytona Coupe tore the Dorian, the timer, out of the front of that
involved. And why we're saying that is many of you I know will be following along on the Bathurst 12 Hours website, where there is live timing and scoring as well. You can see what we're seeing in the booth, and if you're going to use the social media, make sure you use the hashtag B12HR so that we can see what's going on here in the booth. So that is the third place car coming down the Conrod Straight at the moment. You would think, wouldn't you, that it's a fourth, I think, ahead of Greg Crick, but that is not going to do his reputation with the race stewards very...
At Falcon Tyres, and we probably lap and a half to go, I would have thought, under this safety car. They should have a reasonably quick recovery.
Yeah, I think that the McLaren will probably stay out at this point because he's only 3 cars behind the Ferrari. Okay. So I think the right decision is to stay out.
Well, we're hearing that the 88 might come into the pit lane and Mika Salo take a splash of fuel, and the leader is there. He's there. It's a late dive in from Mika Salo. He just gets in before the blend line. That was plain chicken.
He knew that Van Gisbergen was going to copy him.
And look how he speeded up there, Paul, before he gets to the line. Now, does Van Gisbergen follow him in? That's the question. He has not. He has followed him in. So this is drama. We're going back to our national TV audience here in Australia in a few moments' time, and they'll pick up on this pit stop. You're listening to Radio Le Mans live from Bathurst, going all the way to the flag.
First, and the one that will be in last is the other Mercedes, the HTP car. Ooh. So they're the ones perhaps with the box seats.
And coming down to Maguire's the final corner, Maxi Burke. This is where he got second place, and this is where he gets the lead. And you know what? That Mercedes-Benz is doing a great job. Everybody getting out of the way of the leaders. Everybody will be on the Pits to Car radio. But at Bathurst, 12 hours for 2014. Started in the half light of dawn at 6:15 this morning. Peter Cox, the first man to go out. The Lamborghini coming into contact with one of the local animals. Then a little bit of a bump and run by the 84 car. The 84 car in the lane with brake problems. They had to fight their way back. The stories early on was about pace, about speed in a straight line. The Nissan of Rick Kelly certainly had that in spades.
Yeah, and that was a really strong car early on and looked like a contender. This was a big moment for the Compare Insurance Motorsport Lotus. It brought a safety car out, big lose at the chase. They would unfortunately DNF, and this was a wild ride for one of the Mark Ford Focuses towards the end.
Didn't hit anything though, got away with it. And the Clearwater Ferrari gets away with this, but the next time we saw it in strife, it certainly didn't. Already been in the wall, front suspension damage, spraying fluids everywhere, and spins on its own coolant. Causes chaos behind as people go left and right. Audi goes into the wall and bends the steering, but the big hit is yet to come. Look at the fluid on the track. Fluid and slick tyres don't mix, and up over the hill comes the Nissan GTR, and there's nowhere to go.
That was a massive impact. Fortunately, all the drivers walked away from that one. That was a very, very scary impact, and it stopped Godzilla's return to the mountain early in its tracks, but they proved a point. They are fast and they are back. The Phoenix Racing Audi R8 was walking wounded for some of the day. They still finished 5th. This was Ross Lilly in the Lamborghini. Watch to the left of screen. Had a big, big moment early on at the top of the mountain as the leaders went through and crashed heavily into the wall. Fortunately, these cars are very safe, and Ross Lilly got out A-OK. This was a light-hearted moment, and this car was through so much today and almost ended up winning the motor race. with Thomas Jaeger behind the wheel. I think had dramas with the gull wing door. And then Shane van Gisbergen, Mr. Excitement around the outside at Skyline, almost unheard of.
Then we started looking further up the field with issues and punctures for some of the Porsches, including the 12 car. And it was right rear that was the issue for some of those Porsche Clash B cars. But Shane van Gisbergen and Bernd Schneider put on the Bernd and Shane's show for everybody. Oh, that's the lead's taken. Then it goes back to the Mercedes-Benz. You can't get two through the dimmer, but they did. And everybody knows how close they were to disaster, even in the pit lane.
That was a remarkable piece of driving by two very, very good racing car drivers. And in the end, Erebus decided, no, we don't want to get in this, and they let Van Gisbergen go. Then he attacked the Maranello Ferrari and drove the car off the road on the inside, trying to get through on Mika Salo. This was a big moment and possibly a costly one for a car that led for so much of today.
Yes, because although they got away with it there by just losing some of the bodywork, we'll see some issues for it later on. Porsche's airborne in the chase and down into the bunker, down into the top of the mountain. Just a slight misjudgment for the 63 car. Will Davison brought that car home to the end, and here is the possible problems. Maybe a stone or something from that off caught in the brakes, and problems in the pits. Well, they could have been costly for the 88 car. Look at the pit board on the right hand side, it's over the red line.
2 penalties today, remember, for Maranello, speeding in pit lane, 2 k's an hour over the limit. It must be said earlier on, this was the Phoenix Racing Audi. They had the same problem, a bit careless, left the pit board out, and they got stung for that as well. This was a race a little bit early on as Mika Salo tried to fight his way past Greg Creek.
Watch the dive down the inside. Greg Crick did his job, but Mika Salo got it done and went through. Then the change of brake pads. I called it out. Gone. No chance for that car, but it fought back and almost took the victory. And how close to disaster was Craig Lowndes here as he goes all 4 Michelins onto the greenery.
And this was the car that brought the safety car out at the end and set up that amazing finish. John, here are the results.